Welcome back to the Quarterly Call. All content discussed here is for informational purposes and is not investment advice. Please consult with a qualified professional before making any investment decisions. Today we're diving deep into Apple's fourth quarter 2024 earnings.
Okay.
And what really jumped out at us from their call and financial statements,
Right.
get ready, because it's Apple, so there's a lot to unpack.
It is Apple. There is always a lot to unpack. It's interesting. They managed to pull off a record September quarter.
Really?
Even with, the global economy being a bit shaky, almost $95 billion in revenue.
Wow.
Just shows you the power of that brand.
Yeah, that is a mind-blowing number.
It is.
But it is only up 6% from last year.
Right.
For Apple, that's practically standing still, isn't it?
It does make you wonder.
Right.
If even a giant like Apple is starting to feel the pinch of things.
Yeah.
Like inflation and slower consumer spending worldwide. But a 6% growth for them is still better than what most companies are managing right now. So they're outperforming.
Yeah.
Even if it's not their usual breakneck pace.
Okay, so let's break down where that revenue is coming from.
Yeah.
iPhone sales were up 6%, which isn't surprising.
Right.
But services had a huge jump, 12%.
Yeah.
And wearables dipped a little.
Yeah.
What's the story with services suddenly being the star?
I think this is the big trend to watch with Apple. They're shifting more and more towards that recurring revenue model, like subscriptions. Makes them less reliant on just selling iPhones every year,
Right.
which is smart, considering how long people are holding onto their phones these days.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that make you hold on to your phone, can we talk about Apple Intelligence?
Oh, yeah.
I am geeking out over this launch.
Totally.
They're saying it's going to revolutionize how we use all of our Apple devices, not just the phone.
Yeah, it's bold. It's a bold move by Apple, making, Apple Intelligence this core part of their entire ecosystem.
Yeah.
It's like they're saying, if you want the full Apple experience, you need to upgrade.
Yeah.
And you know what? People seem to be biting.
Yeah.
iOS 18.1 adoption is twice as fast as last year.
Wow.
So that means people are eager to get their hands on this new AI.
That's wild. But will it actually lead to people buying new iPhones? I mean, everyone's talking about the supply chain issues.
Yeah.
Especially with the Pro models.
I think it's a bit of a mystery right now.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll have to see how the, the rollout of Apple Intelligence across different languages plays out.
Right.
Will people be patient, or will the fear of missing out drive them to upgrade, even if they have to settle for a less fancy model?
Ooh, good question. And before we get too deep into that, let's switch gears for a second, talk about services.
Okay.
It's kind of the unsung hero of this earnings report, hitting a $100 billion run rate.
That's huge.
That's huge GE. Yeah.
It is. It is a major milestone for Apple. And, think about what it means.
Yeah.
Stable, predictable income from subscriptions.
Right.
That's the holy grail for any business, especially in tech.
Absolutely.
Where things changed so fast.
And they're not stopping there. Did you know Apple Pay just had its 10-year anniversary?
Wow.
They're rolling out new financial services all the time, like those loan options at checkout. It feels like they're slowly weaving themselves into every aspect of our financial lives.
Yeah, it is making some people nervous, others excited.
Right.
Is Apple going to be our bank,
Yeah.
our credit card company, everything? We don't know yet.
Yeah.
But they're certainly planting the seeds.
Okay. So we've got this incredible services growth. Apple Intelligence is shaking things up. But what about the rest of the world? Did they mention how different regions are performing?
Yeah, they did. They said China is showing signs of improvement.
Good.
Which is great news for them, considering how much they rely on that market. Europe exceeded expectations. And get this, India set an all-time revenue record for Apple.
Wow. That's amazing. I guess they're finding ways to grow even with all the geopolitical stuff happening.
Right.
But what about their outlook for the next quarter? Are they expecting this momentum to continue?
Well, they're being their usual cautious selves.
Okay.
Predicting low to mid-single-digit growth for the December quarter.
That sounds super conservative.
Yeah.
Especially with all these new product launches and Apple Intelligence rolling out. Do you think they're sandbagging a little?
It's possible. They always want to manage expectations. And, we haven't even factored in holiday sales yet.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
Yeah.
The global economy is still unpredictable.
Right.
So it's smart of them to be cautious.
Good point. Oh, and before we move on, I have to mention, this was Luca Maistri's last earnings call as CFO.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Kind of the end of an era, right?
It really is. Yeah. He's been a steady hand at the wheel for over a decade.
Yeah.
Always focused on long-term growth. Been keeping investors happy.
Yeah.
Big shoes to fill for the new CFO.
Definitely. So much is changing at Apple right now. It's almost dizzying. But if I had to sum it up for our listeners, here's what you need to be thinking about. So we've got record revenue, but modest growth.
Right.
Apple Intelligence is a game changer.
Yeah.
Services are booming, and Apple is navigating a complex global landscape.
Absolutely.
Now, to really understand the nuances of their financial performance, we need to dive into the specific numbers.
Okay, let's do it.
So let's start with the consolidated financial statements. They're kind of the backbone of any earnings report. They give us a detailed look at Apple's overall financial health. What are the key things we should be paying attention to here?
Well, I think one of the most important things to look at is how they're actually making that revenue.
Okay.
We've talked about those record revenues, but the real story is how they got there. For example, their product segment brought in a whopping $70 billion, a 4% jump year over year.
Wow, that's impressive.
It is. And how about the star of the show, services?
Yeah. Did they break down those numbers?
They did, and it's even better than we thought. Services revenue hit an all-time high of $25 billion, a 12% increase from last year.
Those numbers are huge. Yeah. Clearly, both the product and service segments are doing incredibly well.
They are.
But what about the iPhone specifically? I mean, it's still their flagship product, right?
Absolutely. iPhone revenue reached a new September quarter record of $46.2 billion, a 6% growth from the previous year. And get this growth was across all geographic segments. It's a global phenomenon.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And they even mentioned that the iPhone active installed base is at an all-time high, both globally and in every single geographic segment.
Wow.
That speaks volumes about customer loyalty.
Yeah.
And the power of the Apple ecosystem. And the report also highlighted that many iPhone models were among the top-selling smartphones globally. In fact, the iPhone held the top spot in key markets like the US, urban China, the UK, Australia, and Japan, according to a Kantar survey.
It's like wherever you go, iPhones are dominating the smartphone market.
They really are. And on top of that, they have a 98% customer satisfaction rating in the US based on 451 research data.
Okay.
That's crazy high.
That's incredible.
It is. Now, shifting gears to Macs, it's fascinating how they achieved a 2% year-over-year growth,
Okay.
reaching $7.7 billion in revenue.
Okay.
This growth was mainly driven by the MacBook Air,
Really?
which shows just how popular it is with consumers. And Apple really emphasized the power of Apple Silicon in Macs, positioning it as a major differentiator, especially with their new M4 chips.
Right. And so what's interesting here is they're emphasizing how the M4 chips make Macs the ideal platform for AI applications, which is a smart move considering the growing interest in artificial intelligence.
It is.
Especially with Apple Intelligence coming out.
Yeah. Makes you wonder if we'll see even more AI-powered features in Macs in the future.
Yeah. Okay. What about iPads? How do they do?
iPads brought in $7 billion in revenue, an 8% year-over-year increase. And this growth was fueled by strong performance in both developed and emerging markets, showing that the iPad has broad appeal. But what's really cool is over half of the people buying iPads during this quarter were new to the product.
Wow.
That means iPads are attracting a whole new wave of users, which is great for their future growth.
That is really cool. So even though iPad sales might not be growing as fast as iPhones or services, they're still bringing in new customers.
Exactly. It shows the iPad's versatility and its ability to meet different needs, whether it's for education, entertainment, or productivity. And let's not forget about wearables.
What's the latest on that front?
The wearables, home, and accessories segment generated $9 billion in revenue.
Okay.
Although it was down 3% year over year, the Apple Watch installed base is still growing strong. Over half of the Apple Watch purchases in the quarter were from new customers.
Oh, interesting. So even though revenue dipped slightly, they're still attracting new users to the Apple Watch, which is a good sign.
It is a good sign. And with a 96% customer satisfaction rating in the US, they're clearly keeping those new users happy. Now, going back to that 12% growth in services revenue, it's impressive that this growth is consistent across their entire portfolio of services.
Really?
From Apple Pay and Apple Card to Apple TV Plus and subscriptions.
Wow. So they're not putting all their eggs in one basket.
Exactly.
Which is a smart strategy.
It is.
I remember Luca Maestri highlighting that both transacting accounts and paid accounts reached new all-time highs.
That's right.
This means their user base is growing,
Yeah.
and those users are engaging more and more with Apple's services.
Exactly. And that double-digit growth in paid subscriptions is a testament to how valuable Apple's ecosystem of services has become. They've built a suite of offerings that really caters to a wide range of needs and interests.
Yeah, they're doing something right, that's for sure.
Yeah.
They now have over 1 billion paid subscriptions across their platform,
Wow.
which is more than double what they had just 4 years ago.
That's phenomenal growth.
Yeah.
And it's not just limited to one geographic region either. Apple's services are breaking records in both developed and emerging markets, proving just how global their reach and appeal truly is.
Speaking of global, let's talk about Apple Pay. It's celebrating its 10th anniversary and is now accepted by tens of millions of retailers worldwide.
That's right.
It's become such a common and convenient way to pay, and it's only getting bigger.
It is. And Apple Card, which is only 5 years old, is already a huge success. It's been ranked #1 in customer satisfaction among co-branded credit cards by J.D. Power for the 4th consecutive year. That's a huge accomplishment in such a competitive market.
That's incredible to see how far they've come in just 5 years.
It is.
And let's not forget about Apple TV Plus, which keeps adding new shows and attracting a wider audience.
Yeah, they're definitely leveraging their content creation to enhance their services. From original shows on Apple TV Plus to new games on Apple Arcade, they're constantly expanding their content library to keep users engaged and coming back for more.
So we've looked at their income statement, but what about their balance sheet? How is Apple's overall financial health looking?
Well, let's dive into their consolidated balance sheet. They ended the quarter with $157 billion in cash and marketable securities.
Whoa.
That's a lot of firepower.
That's a massive war chest. It gives them a lot of flexibility for future investments, especially in areas like research and development or even acquisitions.
Exactly. That kind of financial strength is incredible. Their total assets reached $364.98 billion, reflecting their continued growth and scale.
Wow. What about their liabilities?
Their total liabilities amounted to $308 billion, which shows they're managing their financial obligations carefully.
It seems like they're striking a good balance between growth and financial prudence,
Right.
which is essential for long-term sustainability.
It is.
What about their cash flow? How much cash are they actually generating from their operations?
Well, their operating cash flow was robust, reaching a new September quarter record of $26.8 billion. This strong cash generation shows how efficient their operations are and how profitable their products and services are.
So with that kind of cash flow, they can invest heavily in research and development,
Absolutely.
which is critical for driving future innovation. Where else are they investing their cash?
Well, their cash generated by investing activities amounted to $2.935 billion, showing their continued investment in marketable securities and capital expenditures.
So they're definitely playing the long game and making strategic moves to ensure their continued growth.
And what about returning value to shareholders? Are they paying dividends or buying back their own stock?
Their cash used in financing activities amounted to $121.983 billion, which reflects their commitment to returning value to shareholders through dividends and share repurchases.
That's always a good sign for investors. It shows that Apple is dedicated to rewarding them for their trust and support. So we've talked about Apple's overall financial performance, but now let's zoom in on their different business segments.
They break down their net sales by reportable segments. Let's start with their geographic regions. First up, the Americas. How did they perform there?
Well, the Americas region is still their largest market, bringing in $41.664 billion in revenue.
That's not surprising, considering their strong presence in the U.S., their home market. What about Europe?
Europe, including emerging markets like Turkey, the Middle East, and India, contributed $24.924 billion, which highlights their growing presence in these regions.
It's exciting to see them expanding beyond their traditional strongholds and tapping into new markets to drive future growth. What about China? How are they doing in that massive market?
Greater China brought in $15.033 billion. It'll be interesting to see how their performance evolves in China, especially with the rollout of new products and features like Apple Intelligence.
Yeah, definitely something to keep an eye on. And Japan, a market that's always been strong for Apple.
Japan generated $5.926 billion. That shows how enduring their popularity is in a market that's known for being tech-savvy.
What about the rest of the Asia-Pacific region?
Finally, the rest of Asia-Pacific region, which includes countries like Australia and Southeast Asia, contributed $7.383 billion. It's clear that Apple is pursuing a multi-pronged growth strategy, expanding their reach across diverse geographies to minimize risk and capitalize on global opportunities.
Okay, so we've looked at their regional performance. Now let's break down their net sales by category. As expected, the iPhone led the way.
It did. It generated $46.222 billion in revenue. It's a testament to the iPhone's enduring appeal as a premium smartphone that continues to attract a loyal customer base.
Absolutely. What about Macs?
Macs brought in $7.744 billion, reflecting their popularity among professionals and consumers alike.
It's impressive how Macs continue to hold their own in a market that's becoming more and more dominated by mobile devices. What about iPads?
iPads generated $6.95 billion, proving they're still relevant as versatile devices for work, education, and entertainment.
They've really carved out their own niche in the market, offering that perfect blend of portability and power that appeals to a wide range of users. What about wearables, home, and accessories?
That category, which includes the Apple Watch, AirPods, and HomePod, brought in $9.042 billion.
It's amazing to see how much this category has grown in recent years, reflecting the increasing popularity of wearables and smart home devices. And finally, what about the star of the show? Services.
Services, which has become a major driver of growth for Apple, generated $24.972 billion in revenue. It shows just how successful they've been in diversifying their revenue and building that robust services ecosystem.
So we've covered Apple's financial performance by segment, but to really understand the full picture, we need to dig into their non-GAAP and GAAP results. Can you explain the difference between these two and why it's important?
Absolutely. Non-GAAP results are essentially adjusted financial measures that exclude certain items that may not be considered indicative of Apple's ongoing operating performance.
Okay, and why is this important?
Well, it allows investors to compare Apple's performance to previous periods and to other companies in a more consistent way, without being skewed by one-time events or accounting adjustments.
Makes sense.
Sure.
So what are some of the key figures we should focus on here?
They reported an income before provision for income taxes of $29.61 billion.
Okay, and what does that tell us?
That's a significant number that reflects their strong profitability, even with all the economic challenges happening around the world.
That's impressive. And after adjusting for the impact of the reversal of the European General Court's state aid decision, their adjusted net income reached $24.982 billion.
Exactly. It's an important figure that gives a clearer picture of their core operating results, excluding the impact of that one-time charge.
So excluding those one-time charges, they're still making a lot of money. What about their earnings per share? How much profit did they generate for each outstanding share?
Their diluted earnings per share, adjusted for the same factor, came in at an impressive $1.64.
It's great news for investors.
It is. It shows they can still generate strong earnings even after adjusting for those one-time items.
Now, can you explain that one-time charge related to the European General Court's state aid decision? It sounds complicated.
It is a bit complicated. Basically, that $10.2 billion charge is a result of a legal battle that's been going on for years. It boils down to disagreements over tax payments and whether Apple received favorable treatment in Ireland.
So it's a reminder that even giants like Apple aren't immune to regulatory challenges.
That's right.
But it's good that they provided a reconciliation of their non-GAAP to GAAP results, giving investors transparency into their financial performance.
Absolutely. It shows their commitment to being open about their financials so investors can make informed decisions. So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've looked at Apple's record revenues, their booming services segment, the excitement around Apple Intelligence, and their global expansion. We've also delved into the details of their consolidated financial statements, understanding their profitability, cash flow, and the impact of one-time charges.
That's right. We've really gone deep into the numbers, but now let's step back and think about the bigger picture. What are the key takeaways for our listeners? What does all this mean for Apple's future?
Okay, well, first, I think it's important to highlight Apple's resilience.
Okay.
Their record revenue, even with the modest year-over-year growth, shows just how well they're doing in a tough economic environment. They're navigating headwinds and still delivering strong financial results. It's a testament to their brand power, their innovative products and services, and their loyal customer base.
Absolutely. They've built a brand that people trust and products that people love, and that's incredibly valuable in today's competitive market. What else should our listeners keep in mind?
I think the launch of Apple Intelligence marks a new chapter in Apple's innovation story. It's a bold move that puts them at the forefront of the AI revolution, and it has the potential to change how we interact with their products and services.
It's exciting. It shows that Apple isn't just sitting back and relaxing, but is constantly pushing boundaries and innovating,
Yeah.
which is great for both consumers and investors.
Yeah.
What else stands out to you?
Their strategic shift towards services is paying off big time.
Yeah.
Services now make up a significant portion of their revenue and are growing at a rapid pace.
Mm-hmm.
This diversification makes their financial performance more stable and less reliant on just selling hardware.
It's a smart move that positions them well for long-term success in a tech world that's constantly changing.
Exactly. And let's not forget their impressive cash flow and strong balance sheet.
Right.
That gives them the financial resources they need for future investments and strategic initiatives. This financial strength gives them the flexibility to pursue growth opportunities, invest in research and development, and reward shareholders through dividends and share repurchases.
That's reassuring for investors. It shows that Apple is well positioned for continued growth and success in the years to come. So they're financially healthy, they're innovating, and they're expanding their reach. What else should we highlight?
Their global reach and diverse revenue streams, both geographically and across product categories, mitigate risks and provide a solid foundation for future growth.
Right.
They've successfully expanded beyond their traditional markets, tapping into new areas and catering to a wide range of consumer needs.
It's a strategy that sets them up to weather economic storms and capitalize on emerging opportunities around the world. Okay, so we've unpacked a lot of information about Apple's Q4 2024 earnings. We've seen their financial strength, their commitment to innovation, and their strategic focus on services. But before we move on to part 2 of our deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with a thought-provoking question.
Okay, let's hear it.
As you process all this information, consider this. What does Apple's strategic shift towards services and their bold investment in AI tell us about their vision for the future? Are they just changing their business model? Or are they aiming for something more transformative, something that redefines their role in our lives?
That's a great question. It really gets to the heart of what Apple is trying to achieve. Are they simply evolving their business, or are they on a mission to reshape the tech landscape and our relationship with technology?
It's a question we'll keep exploring as we continue our deep dives into Apple's world. But for now, take some time to digest everything we've covered in this first part. We'll be back soon with part 2, where we'll delve deeper into Apple's global performance and the intricate relationship between their hardware and services.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it.
Stay tuned. Welcome back to part 2 of our deep dive into Apple's Q4 2024 earnings.
Okay.
We've talked about those impressive numbers, the rise of Apple Intelligence, and the growing importance of services. Now let's zoom in on how Apple is performing around the world. It's a big world out there, and Apple seems to be doing pretty well almost everywhere.
Yeah, you're right. They're kind of firing on all cylinders globally. Let's start with their biggest market, the Americas.
Okay.
They set a new revenue record there for the September quarter.
Wow.
No surprise, considering how strong their presence is in the U.S. and how loyal their customers are in the region.
Yeah, they even mentioned setting new records in both North and South America,
Right.
with countries like Brazil and Mexico showing strong growth.
That's a great sign. It means they're not just holding on to their dominance in established markets, but they're also expanding successfully into emerging economies.
Right.
Which is crucial for their long-term growth.
Absolutely. Now let's hop across the pond to Europe.
Okay.
They had a record September quarter there too,
Really?
with double-digit growth,
Yeah.
reaching an impressive 11%.
Uh,
That's pretty amazing considering all the economic and political uncertainty in Europe right now.
It is. The European market is a complex one, with different economies, regulations, and consumer preferences.
Yeah.
Apple seems to be navigating those complexities quite well.
They specifically called out the strength in both Western Europe and emerging markets within the region,
Okay.
with countries like Turkey and the Middle East contributing significantly to their growth.
That's a smart strategy. It shows they're able to cater to different market segments,
Yeah.
from high-end consumers in developed economies to those looking for more affordable options in emerging markets.
Right.
It's a balancing act, and they seem to be mastering it.
And let's not forget about India. Apple set an all-time revenue record there.
Wow. That's huge.
That's a big win for them, especially since they've been working hard to expand their presence in India, a market with huge potential.
Yeah, their success in India is fascinating. It shows that they're willing to adapt to local market conditions.
Right.
They've been partnering with local companies, expanding their retail presence, and offering more flexible financing options
Right.
to appeal to a wider range of consumers. It's a localized approach that seems to be working.
Now let's talk about China. That market has been a bit of a roller coaster for Apple in recent quarters.
Right.
But in Q4, they managed to stabilize their performance, reporting relatively flat year-over-year results.
That's definitely an improvement compared to previous quarters. It looks like their efforts to address those market-specific challenges are starting to pay off.
Yeah. They mentioned that their installed base of active devices in China reached an all-time high,
Oh, wow.
and that they had the top 2 selling smartphones in urban China, according to Kantar.
Those are encouraging signs. It means that despite the competition, Apple is still a highly desirable brand in China, and their products resonate with Chinese consumers.
So, okay. Let's move on to Japan, a mature market where Apple has a long history and a very loyal customer base.
Yeah, they didn't talk specifically about Japan during the earnings call, but their financial statements show solid performance in the region. They've consistently generated strong revenue in Japan, which shows the enduring appeal of their products in that tech-savvy market.
Yeah. It's a testament to their ability to maintain their premium brand positioning and cater to the changing needs of Japanese consumers. Now, what about the rest of the Asia-Pacific region, which includes a wide variety of markets with different levels of development and growth potential?
Apple highlighted that region as setting a September quarter revenue record,
Really?
proving that they're expanding their footprint beyond their traditional strongholds.
That's great.
They've been particularly successful in markets like Australia and Southeast Asia, using their strong brand reputation and innovative products to gain market share.
It's fascinating how Apple is approaching its global expansion.
Yeah.
They're not putting all their eggs in one basket, but are diversifying their presence across different regions to mitigate risk
Right.
and capitalize on growth opportunities wherever they arise.
Exactly. They're masters of navigating the complexities of different regions, adapting their strategies to local market conditions while maintaining a consistent brand identity and product quality.
Yeah. This ability to balance global reach with local relevance is a key ingredient in their sustained success.
Absolutely.
They're definitely playing the long game.
Mm-hmm.
They're not chasing short-term gains, but are building a solid foundation for sustainable growth
Right.
in key markets around the world. It's a smart and strategic approach.
It is.
Now, as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, let's consider the challenges and opportunities Apple might face in different regions as they continue their global expansion. Do you think they can maintain their premium brand positioning in price-sensitive markets?
That's a good question. They've been successful in offering more affordable options in some markets, like India.
Right.
But maintaining that premium image while also appealing to a broader audience is a delicate balance.
Yeah. And how will they handle the complexities of different regulations and cultural nuances?
Yeah,
It's a lot to juggle.
it is.
These are important things to think about as we evaluate Apple's future prospects and their ability to maintain their global leadership in the years to come. Now, let's shift gears and talk about something that's really transforming Apple's business model,
Okay.
the relationship between hardware and services. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into Apple's Q4 2024 earnings. We've covered their record revenue, the potential of Apple Intelligence, and their global expansion. Now let's talk about something that's really changing the game for Apple, the growing connection between their hardware and services.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see how much Apple is emphasizing services as a major growth driver. Their services revenue reached an all-time high this quarter, $25 billion, growing faster than their product segment.
And it's not just about the numbers, right? Apple is really weaving services into their hardware, creating a seamless ecosystem that makes their products even more appealing and keeps users coming back for more.
Exactly. Take Apple Intelligence, for example. It's not just a software feature. It's a powerful tool that uses AI to make iPhones, Macs, and iPads even more useful and indispensable.
And they're rolling out more features and making Apple Intelligence available in more languages, right?
Mm-hmm.
That integration is only going to get stronger, blurring the lines between hardware and services even more.
What's really intriguing is how Apple is using services to build deeper relationships with their customers. It's not just about selling products anymore, it's about creating an experience.
You're right. Think about Apple Pay. It's becoming more than just a way to pay. It's evolving into a financial platform that could play a much bigger role in our lives, especially as they expand into things like loans and rewards programs.
And with services like Apple TV plus Apple Music and Apple Arcade, they're offering a curated selection of content and experiences that appeal to a wide range of interests. They're becoming a part of our daily routines.
So it's pretty clear that Apple is no longer just a hardware company. They're becoming a complete tech ecosystem, blending hardware, software, and services into a uniquely Apple experience.
But this shift towards services doesn't come without challenges, right? They're entering markets that are already very competitive, going up against established players in areas like streaming, gaming, and financial services.
And they're also facing scrutiny from regulators who are concerned about their growing power and influence, especially in areas like app distribution and payments.
Right, those are obstacles they'll need to overcome, but their huge base of loyal customers, their strong brand reputation, and their financial resources give them a significant advantage.
And let's not forget their relentless focus on innovation. They're always pushing the boundaries of what's possible in both hardware and software, and that drive to innovate will be essential as they venture into new areas. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Apple's Q4 2024 earnings, here's something I think our listeners should consider. As Apple continues to blur the lines between hardware and services, what does this mean for the future of the tech industry as a whole?
That's a great question. Will other companies follow suit and try to create their own integrated ecosystems? Or will Apple's unique approach set them apart even further, solidifying their position as a tech giant?
It's a question that'll play out over the next few years, but one thing's for sure. Apple is charting a new course, and it's likely to have a major impact on the tech landscape and how we interact with technology in our daily lives. Thank you so much for listening to the Quarterly Call. If you enjoyed it, make sure to rate and follow our show. Until next time, stay curious and stay informed.